I grew up on the east side of the city. I did get to study abroad through college, though, which really opened my eyes to all sorts of things. I studied abroad in Spain, in Malaga, on the southern coast, and really fell in love with the idea of walking places and talking to cafe owners and bartenders and just having that sense of community, but also being in a big city. And so I decided I wanted that lifestyle, but I wanted it in Detroit, and people laughed at me. But I moved downtown to downtown Detroit in 2003, and I didn't drive to work for 15 years, which in the Motor City, especially then, was quite a novel concept. And what happened was when I started walking places, I started noticing things about my own city that I had not noticed before. And I knew Detroit, right? I mean, I love Detroit. I knew Detroit. I grew up here, all of that. But then I was like, what's that building? And what's this small business? And wait, how did I live here and not know these things? And then there was a whole other side of town because I was an East Sider. So I realized I didn't know anything about the West Side and very little about Southwest Detroit, and kind of got addicted to just, absorbing and learning and experiencing. And I loved my life here in Detroit. I certainly knew and understood the challenges that we had, but I really loved the community and the life that I had made for myself. And many people were telling me that was impossible. You can't. Oh, I've heard, whether they were from here or not from here. Obviously, Detroit has still, depending, a negative reputation in the world. And but I realized a lot of people who had these perceptions either had not been to Detroit and didn't know what it was really like to live there and be a part of it. And even locals who had heard the bad headlines and certainly dealt with some of the challenges, didn't know about some of the success stories, some of the small businesses, some of the positive reasons to live here. And it just led me to, think that there should be something that really helps tell people what the real story of Detroit is. And then, like a lot of accidental entrepreneurs, as they say, I asked, why don't we have this? And then I had to say, well, I guess I'll do it. So in 2006, I started the Detroit Experience Factory, which is a 501c3 nonprofit that educates locals and visitors to Detroit's people, places, and projects, or about Detroit's people, places, and projects through immersive storytelling. We've taken over 130,000 people on experiential tours since we began. And now an additional, just in the last few months, I think the recent number is around 3,000 people through these virtual experiences, which we'll talk more about. And so that has been really, really exciting and interesting. And then recently, I also launched a new project called the City Institute. People were coming to me from all over the country and the world to learn from Detroit and to learn from what we've done at Detroit Experience Factory and these tours and immersive storytelling. And so I've worked with Chicago and the state of Oregon and Las Vegas and Akron, Ohio, and Graz, Austria, all different kinds of folks from all over that have both wanted help telling their story, the story of their place, but also that leaders from around the country and world, whether corporate like Salesforce or Nike, or again, leadership from other cities, have come to Detroit to kind of see what we have been able to do, in some cases with the limited resources that we've had. So we have a whole series around innovation and inspiration that has become an anchor of the City Institute, which is about sharing lessons learned from Detroit to inspire individuals, organizations, and cities to innovate for a better future. So the learning journeys are in-depth, normally in-person experiences that use Detroit as a classroom. So instead of a 2-hour quick tour, it might be a day, 2 days, multiple days, and we not only tour through different neighborhoods and around different topics, but also have panels and conversations and hear from people on the ground. And we can also now have started doing those virtually, more in-depth programming. The City Experience program is helping other cities or neighborhoods craft interactive experiences that connect locals and newcomers to their people, places, and projects. And then, of course, keynotes, workshops. People had always asked me to speak places, and I realized I should probably write that down or put somewhere that we do that. So that's just a little bit about the Detroit Experience Factory, the types, and City Institute. The types of tours and things that we do have just been, I've been amazed at what people have asked us for and what we've been able to do. And imagine, again, 15 years coming on January, it'll be 15 years, over 130,000 people, thousands of individual tours. We do things like scavenger hunts that aren't just about solving the clue, but you actually learn about places. Go in, again, non-COVID, but we have COVID editions as well. But it's like go into a small business and find out, what their special of the day is. And so people actually go into a place and go, oh, hey, I've never been here. This is cool. Deep dive issue-based tours around social justice in neighborhoods throughout the city, but where you actually understand where those challenges and how they came to be. Bar tours. I mean, it's really the whole gamut, from the fun art and architecture and bars and restaurants to the deep dive, even what we call volunteers, where it's great when people volunteer, but do they understand where they're volunteering, why their help is needed? There's a lot of misinformation about the challenges that communities face. So the volunteers have been a really great way to have the impact of volunteering go a lot farther. So those are just a few examples. So I want to